Are you full of the energy? Oh. You might want to shut his door.
Yeah.
He's getting a little.
No, it's just the fact that I fucking meleeed it.
We're recording.
Shut the fuck up. Hi. Yeah.
Yep.
See how.
So hi guys. We're doing the Career Girl Murders.
Mm-hmm.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Highly.
We got some murder, some SA, some racism, some police negligence, some police brutality, I think. Language, of course. And then a smidge of homophobia.
That's a new one.
Yeah, smidge of homophobia. Especially because it's the 60s.
Makes sense.
So, Michelle, I know you can't see her because Willow is now blocking her. Is chilling today. She's super relaxed.
I'm in my bathrobe.
Yeah.
I'm just like, Willow, I love you. You make a better door than a window. We've been up since 3:30 this morning.
Woo!
So we're doing. Can you get your face out of the way?
And I have been moving giant things on walls. We've been making moves.
They have. I've been in the fitting room, but I was moving. I did go back. There was nothing on it. Don't you dare lick my spoon. So yeah, we're making some moves. Men's is moving around.
Yeah. Women's is also getting a move next week. So if you see us half exhausted again, we're doing 4 to 1s again. Tomorrow I get to sleep in and do a 7 to 4.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna regret the 7 to 4. I'm gonna be like, it's time to go home yet.
So the Career Girls murder. This case is a doozy. And you'll actually see a couple of similarities in this case versus the lipstick killer case.
Okay.
There's a couple of things that are similar.
Now, do we want to tell people why we're doing it in the order that we're doing it? Because we did Lipstick Killer, then we did the Glamour Girls, right?
Yeah, it was because I'm trying to group it. So like shoe fetish, lipstick killer, glamour girls. The Career Girl murders is kind of like the end of like the weird names, the like shoey names, like the I don't know how to describe the feminine descriptive names. Yeah, it's the end of like this part of the series. And I think it's a great way to begin Black History Month because I think we're posting this on February 1st, right?
Yes.
So this is being posted on February 1st. This case, as much as I hate to say it, has a lot to do with racism. Not that the victims were the victim of racism, but there was something happening in the case that ended up having a lot to do with racism. So it's a great case to start off Black History Month. We are going to end Black History Month or be in the middle of Black History Month with a doozy, Timothy Coggins. So.
And then I think the next one we're doing is the Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we're doing the Valentine's Day Massacre. We're going to post that one the days before Valentine's Day. And then we're going to do, that one's going to be a short one. Yeah. That's going to be a short one. The Valentine's Day Massacre is a short one. It's a historical event. There were no survivors, so, and we don't really know who did it. We suspect we know who did the Valentine's Day Massacre, but we don't know for sure, so we don't have any testimony.
And I'm wearing a bathrobe just because I don't feel like putting a shirt on.
Also, it's kind of cold in here.
I'm not cold. She is.
I am.
Not. Hang on, I gotta adjust you people because you can only see half of me.
There we go. You can see more.
Here we go.
So it's going to take place in the 60s too. So we're doing kind of a, yeah.
Love, if you think.
I wish.
Sex, drugs, rock and roll, man.
On the afternoon of August 28th, 1963, Patricia Tolles returned home from work to her apartment in New York City. When she walked through the door, she found it ransacked. Nothing was like she left it. She had also found a bloody knife in the bathroom, but her roommates Emily Hoffert and Janice Wiley were nowhere to be seen. So, kind of,
We're starting this out like right off the poop chute.
Yeah, because it is important we talk about the killer later. It's important it's also not a serial killer. So the killer's history not that important into understanding the time.
It's like, wait, you know how you watch one of them TV shows or one of them movies that it's just wham bam they come in, hey, look, this is what happened.
And then we go in
and then you go into this is what led up to it.
Yeah. But also, do you see what I mean? It kind of feels similar to the lipstick killer. Walked in, apartments ransacked.
I remember when you said that, I was like, hey, it sounds familiar.
Yeah. And her roommates were nowhere to be seen. She didn't reveal that they were nowhere to be found. She just walked through so she didn't look to see if they were anywhere.
She just walked.
She walked through the door, saw the apartment torn apart, and was like, "I'm not going any further because this looks suspicious. I'm gonna call someone because this is weird."
Ghostbusters.
Emily and Janice were in the apartment. Sadly, though, she just didn't see them. Their murders, though, did shine a light on how race and class can influence a police investigation and a jury verdict.
Of course.
Especially back then. This case also talks about how justice can be delayed and diverted completely in the interest of efficiency and illusion of safety, not actually taking the bad guys off the street. So it's very similar to the lipstick killer.
Let's keep them out there so they can continue.
Janice Lamb Wiley was born on March 6, 1942 in Evanston, Illinois. She was one of two kids. Her parents were Max and Isabel Wiley. After she was born, their family moved to Manhattan, and Max was working as an advertisement exec and eventually changed to television production. He was actually the creator of the Flying Nun from 1967 to 1970.
Oh, The Flying Nun. I've seen that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good movie.
He was the creator of the TV series.
Okay. I've seen that. I was born in the 80s, by the way, so yes, I have seen a lot of 60s, 70s TV shows.
Since Janice was his daughter, she looked down. She was raised in a lot of privilege. Mm-hmm. She attended the finest schools, summer camps, and received tutoring from expensive tutors. As a result, she was very self-assured and very confident in herself. I will say, unlike other kids that have the same stuff as her, that grew up spoiled, she kind of used her privilege to move herself forward and make a place for herself in the world. When she got older, she quickly... Did she fart?
You didn't hear that?
No.
Right by me.
When she got older, she quickly became the center of attention, and she loved hosting and attending parties, and she wanted to be out in the world, meeting everyone she could. She was said to have dated more than the average woman, because at the time she was said to date both men and women.
Do not eat that.
She was an early...
She don't eat the chip.
I don't think she likes the salt and vinegar.
Wait a minute, she might not.
It's salt and vinegar. I don't think she likes it. I think she's questioning.
She dropped a chip on the carpet.
And it's salt and vinegar.
And salt and vinegar. And Willow's like, I don't know if I want to eat this. She kind of like contemplating she gonna eat it or not. Willow. What are you doing, honey?
So she was essentially an early bi queen, dating men, women.
Yeah.
60s.
Yeah.
A little bit of weird. She had beautiful blonde hair, and she was described as having startling green eyes. And you can actually pull up a photo of her. She does look stunning. People described her as a woman that surrounded you and overwhelmed you.
Oh, okay.
At first meeting, she had a sensuality and animalism about her. She was just a really great person that people really loved and wanted to get to know better.
Okay, if you want to eat it, eat it. Stop looking at it like you really want that chip, But you know you don't want to touch it because it's salt and vinegar. She keeps looking at it like, I want it. Come on.
This allowed her to
You're
go out.
distracting us. Stop distracting us.
This allowed her to go out on her own and make a career for herself.
Yeah.
And this is the early 60s. Women going into the workforce is still kind of new at the time.
Yeah.
It was unusual for a woman to want to go into the workforce. When she graduated college, she actually became a research assistant at Newsweek, where she and several other women would clip articles and paste them in a reference book for journalists higher up in the magazine to look up for their stories and use.
Okay.
Because they didn't have computers back then, so they couldn't research it. So they would literally make book clippings of be like murder cases from this time to this time, and then clip the papers that they wrote, that the paper had wrote. So if they needed to reference back to it, they could just go to the book and reference, pull it out, and look at the article that had previously been written.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So she and a couple of other women were doing this job. And she didn't need the money because she came from it. Her parents would have, if she wanted to, her parents would have just paid for her to do anything she wanted.
Yeah.
But she didn't want to. She wanted to make her own name.
She wanted to be independent
and be her own person.
Cool.
Janice used the job for socialization as well because she loved being around people. According to a journalist she worked with, Bernard Lofkowitz, in a little more than 5 months at working at Newsweek, Janice had become the office live wire. She relieves the tedium of routine and her raucous laugh humor and her unabashed theatricality with her blunderous candor.
Some big old words.
Yeah, he was very flowery and eloquent with his words. She wanted to move into her own apartment and take care of it and not have her dad pay the rent. So that's another reason she got the job. She wanted to have her own place that wasn't her parents'. She ended up sharing the apartment with 2 other girls. And a few weeks after starting at Newsweek, Janice's friend Pat Tolles asked her to share an apartment with her on the Upper East Side, where Janice had grown up. So she knew the area well. She knew she could have gotten a cheaper apartment, but she wanted to have a nice place and live in a good neighborhood. And it was a safe neighborhood.
Yeah.
So she said yes, and they moved into apartment 3C at 57 East 88th Street. And it was managed apartment. It was very high end with doctors, dentists, and other professionals. Mm-hmm. It was a safe apartment building. Mm-hmm. They were paying a lot at the time, $208 per month for rent.
What? Why can't we go back to that? Jeez. We suck.
At the time, that was a lot of money. Yeah.
Okay.
This is where Janice met Emily Hoffett, who was a friend and former roommate of Pat's, and was looking for a place temporarily because she was trying to figure out the long-term plan for herself. She just needed a moment to figure it out. Emily grew up in Edina, Minnesota, a suburb right outside of Minneapolis. And after graduating high school, she ended up going east to get a teaching degree at Smith College. And after a year of graduate courses at Tufts University and a couple months of teaching at a private progressive high school in Newton, Massachusetts, which is again a suburb of Boston, decided to move to New York. In the fall of 1963, she relocated to New York, where she stayed in a short-term rentals with her friends while she looked for work, figuring out what she wanted to do. In late July 1964, she moved in with Pat and Janice. Mm-hmm. And as far as roommates were concerned, Emily was the complete opposite of Janice. They were 2 very different people. They didn't butt heads though. It was kind of like they knew they were looked at each other and were like, "You're the opposite of me. I'm the opposite of you. I'm not gonna push my way of doing things and push it onto you. We're just gonna cohabitate and live peacefully." Mm-hmm. Janice was outgoing and social. Emily was quiet and reserved. Janice was previously described as beautiful and was conventionally attractive. And Emily, I'm saying what was reported. I don't believe it for a second. And also the way they described her, fucked up.
Really?
They said they described Emily as plain and basic looking.
Huh.
Let me.
I love when we do photos. Those are fun. Then you get.
I'm pulling up the career girl murder victims. These were the victims. This was Janice, and this was Emily.
Okay, Janice looks creepy.
I think it's just a bad photo of Janice. Because oftentimes she was described as having these startling green eyes.
Well, there's a colorful one right there.
No, those. I think that's a. So this was Janice Wiley. But that's just a really bad photo.
It makes her look creepy.
Oh, I guess they have photos of the crime scene.
If you've ever gone to Disneyland and you met the little mermaid that has the big eyes, that's who she reminds me of. Well, that one looked pretty decent. I mean, it's in color. She don't look as creepy. The black and white version one looks creepy.
Yeah. And then they described Emily as being plain.
I mean, she kind of looks like a librarian book nerd. But not in a negative way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
She just looks like a friend that I would want to have to help me with my schoolwork. Like a tutor.
Also, be careful if you do look them up. There are photos of the crime scene. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, I did.
Those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be careful.
Crime scenes don't bother me. It would be if there was bodies in it.
Yeah.
That would bother me.
So. Yeah, they described her as plain and basic looking.
I mean, I have to agree.
She was 5.
It depends on her personality.
Yeah.
Like, what does she do? Sorry, what does she do outside of the apartment when she's not there? Does she go to the library? She just reminds me of a librarian book nerd. I get nothing wrong.
But you could see they're opposites of each other.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. One that looks like the movie star, and the one that looks like I'll hang out with you, but that's it. You know.
Emily was 5'3". She had dark brunette hair, and she was described as having a pale complexion and having glasses. Both had put any serious romantic relationships on the back burner to build their own careers for themselves.
Good for them.
They were like, Janice was like, I'll date, but I'm not going to do anything serious until my career is set. Emily was like, I'm not doing anybody until my career is set.
Yeah. The smart one.
And this was actually something the press would make a huge deal about. I mean, look at the title, Career Girl Murders. Emily never intended to stay in the apartment for very long, which actually makes it really sad because I'm about to tell you, she was moving out of the apartment.
Okay.
And it wasn't because anything had happened, was she had gotten her plan set up. She figured out what she wanted.
It was falling into place.
Yeah, according to Emily's friend, she had a clear list of priorities. So this was Emily's list of priorities. Get a job teaching in a suburban school, move at the end of August into an apartment on Park Avenue with 2 Smith classmates, and save enough for a trip to Europe next summer.
Dang, that's pretty precise.
Yeah, she had a plan. While her goal was ambitious, she was committed to it. And she began packing the few belongings she had, and she was going to move. She was ready. On the morning of August 28th, Emily had gone by the apartment to pack up the last of her belongings and say goodbye to her friends, unaware that would be the last time she would speak to anyone. So a little side note, because this does play into the case. The 3 girls were trying to establish the independence. The nation as a whole was going through a social identity crisis in regards of race, gender, sexuality, because everything was changing. There was the civil rights movement at the time. The second feminist movement was just beginning during this time. And then there was the gay movement at the time. So there's a lot happening in the world at the time. And I mean, look, Janice is dating guys and girls.
Yeah.
She was a part of that movement. Both of them were women. I think on the day of the murder, Janice said that she wasn't going to go to work because she was going to go to a march in Washington. August 28th.
The civil rights movement, was that part of the Freedom Riders?
Yes.
Yep. John's dad was a part of that.
Civil rights. That was the March on Washington. The day that they died was the day the March on Washington. The day that Martin Luther King Jr. gave his speech of "I Have a Dream."
Mhm.
She was going to go to that march.
Mm.
She was going to attend that march. She was very much active in it. Emily may not have been actively participating in it, but they were very much being affected by all of these different movements. And as much as I hate to say it, the police were also being affected, but they were not rolling with the times, I would say.
Yeah.
Very much stuck on the back burners of no, civil rights movement, no. And we're going to get to that. So women weren't getting married young anymore and having kids immediately and starting a family. Um, there was no longer that was no longer seen as a super attractive option. Some people did want to do it just like they want to do it now,
Mhm.
but it wasn't something that all women wanted to do. Most women were like, for the first time, I can go out and get a job and don't have to
Stay at home and do
stay
nothing.
at home, take care of the kids, get pregnant, clean the house. I can go out in the world and be my own person.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of that happening. There was the push of you can do this, but you can also do this. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like the beginning of the, I hate to say it, this debate that, oh, women need to stay at home. No, women need to go in the workforce. It was the beginning of that divide, but at the moment, it was you have the choice.
Mhm.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
You have the choice. Um, so because of this, there was a panic among women, and it reinforced this idea of women's vulnerability. When young women are enjoying autonomy and visibility, they were getting scared because women were like, okay, I can do things on my own. And then other women were like, I can do things on my own. I don't have anyone to protect me. I'm vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it created this dynamic that was being seen all over the US. For the better part of the first half of the 20th century, New York's crime rate was low, which made everyone feel pretty safe. But by mid century, the murder rate slowly rose. It went from 4 homicides per 100,000 in the early 50s to 7.5 per 100,000 in the early 60s, which is a little bit of a jump. It's not that big of a jump, but
Mm.
it's still a little bit of a jump. So back to August 28th, I went on my little tangent. At the time, New York is suffering through this like little bit of a crime jump. As it happens, there are always periods of time where crime jumps up and then it drops. And most of the time, it's because of economic crises,
Mhm.
political
Holidays.
issues, holidays, whole bunch of things going on. There is always periods of time where crime jumps and then goes down. There has never been an instance where crime just continuously goes up and never goes down.
Yeah.
Crime always goes down too. There is always a downfall. It may not feel like it because of the media and the press,
Yeah.
but it does. Um, Back from my rant. So August 28th, Pat was rushing to work while 21-year-old Janice slept in, and 21-year-old Janice slept in, and 23-year-old Emily was making coffee. Now, after finishing an orange and drinking the last of the coffee, Pat rinsed the cup, took the trash out to the garbage chute, heard it click on her way out, and Emily followed a little bit later. After loading a few items in the car she was borrowing from a roommate's sister, she drove the short distance to Anne Rosenberg's apartment on Riverside to return the car. The two sat and talked for a little bit. They had a cup of coffee and they ended up going their separate ways. Now, Pat was at her desk at the Times Life Company when her phone rang, and it was Janice's mom. And Janice's mom was calling to see if Pat had heard from Janice that morning because someone from Newsweek had called her mom and asked where Janice was and why she hadn't come into work.
Mm.
As far as Pat knew, Janice was still in bed. And she was like, you know what? She did mention she was going to go to that march in Washington that was happening. Maybe she did that.
Mhm.
Now, that did kind of worry Pat because she wasn't the type to no call, no show. She would call out almost always.
Yeah.
She wasn't irresponsible. Now, Pat promised to call Miss Wiley as soon as she got home because Janice would have left a note, but she still had a bad feeling in her gut. So Pat got worried and called Emily's new roommate and was like, "Had Emily gotten there yet?" And the girl was like, "No, I haven't seen Emily all day today."
Hmm.
And she was getting more concerned. Um, but Pat continued with her day, and then she headed home. And around 6:30, when she reached the front door of their third-story apartment, they're
Yeah.
on the third floor. They're not on the first floor. They're on the third floor. Pat unlocked the door. Keep that in mind. The door was locked.
Okay.
Um, she unlocked the door, and nothing seemed unusual when she walked in. But when she reached the kitchen, the service door that led to the garbage chute,
Yeah.
the one she heard click, was ajar now.
Hmm.
And she was getting really worried. When she found the bedroom she shared with Janice, the room was in shambles. Clothes, shoes, papers, everything was scattered in the room, and two suitcases that were always stored on the shelf in the closet were never taken out or left open on the bed.
Hmm.
On the other end, both dressers had all the drawers pulled out and the contents scattered on the floor. There were hair colors, half-empty packs of cigarettes, a pile of pennies on the floor too. It was like she had been robbed. She left the room and didn't notice the heap of sheets laying on one side of the bed. The light was on in the bathroom, which was weird, and Pat noticed immediately there was a 12-inch carving knife just sitting at the edge of the sink.
Okay.
She was like, "Why the fuck is there a knife in the bathroom?" And she noticed the handle looked like it was streaked with blood, like someone had rinsed the blade. And she was like, oh no, Janice has slashed her wrists. Which then she went, "That doesn't make any sense." And she was in a panic. So she was like, "I have to get out of here. There might be somebody in the apartment still. I don't know where to go." So she ran out of the apartment, ran into the hall trying to find somebody out there, but it was empty. So she ran down to the lobby for a payphone, called her boyfriend. She was panicked, and he immediately agreed to come over. She doesn't remember how the next hour unfolded because she was in a state of shock,
Hmm.
but she did know she called the police, and she also placed a call to Janice's parents. And when Miss Wiley answered, she asked to speak to Max,
Yeah.
Mr. Wiley, so as not to alarm Miss Wiley. Pat told Max when she returned home with no note from Janice and it appeared like someone had ransacked their apartment, she was like, "I don't know where Janice is." Now, they lived a few blocks away from Janice's parents, so they came to the apartment complex.
Hmm.
And they all went up to the building and they're waiting for the police because she doesn't remember if she called the parents first or the police first. She doesn't remember.
Again, it's a lot.
She was shaken. So the police aren't there yet. So the parents and them go to the apartment. They
Mhm.
go inside. Um and Max went into the apartment to see what was happening. And later, Max would tell Bernard, "I stepped into the bathroom and I leaned over and I looked at the knife and realized that although it had been put under the faucet, the blade was clean. There was a quarter inch of blood on
Handle.
the
Right.
handle. I was frightened and I went into the bedroom that the two ladies were inspecting and told them to go into the living room and sit down and not touch anything." Now, entered Emily's room and found a similar state of disarray. He said the door was half opened. I saw the first of the two twin beds. There was a lot of luggage on the bed, but the second bed was saturated in blood.
Mm.
Max then entered the room and made his way to the other side of the bed, where he sadly found the bodies of his daughter Janice and her roommate Emily on the floor.
Wow.
They were facing each other on the floor and appeared to be tied together with what they later found to be strips of bed sheets.
Oh wow.
He said Janice was nude, Emily was dressed. Janice had been stabbed through the heart, and knifing around the neck was noticeable. The curlers were still in Janice's hair.
Oh, wow.
Emily
Poor
had
guy.
been frightfully cut. It was so gory. So he pulled the blankets from the bed and laid it across the girls. Then he went out to the living room, called the police to report the discovery. Again, I get why people do that. I get why people cover the bodies.
Yeah.
I get it. Especially because it was his daughter and his daughter was nude. I get it.
She was nude or Emily?
Janice was nude. His daughter was nude.
Okay.
So he goes over and he sees Emily and Janice there.
Yeah. Right.
His daughter is still in her hair curlers, and his daughter is nude.
Okay.
And she's the one who's been stabbed through the heart, and there's
Right.
been stab wounds in her neck. And he was like, Emily's been cut up frightfully. And then he put a blanket. Don't touch the crime scene. Don't ever touch the crime scene.
Mhm.
Unless the person is still alive, then you can be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go help the person.
Yeah. Or when the police get there and say, hey, I'm the one that covered them up. So you know. So if you see
But
fingerprints.
even then, I argue, because what if there was evidence on that?
You can still
It
get that.
could get tainted,
Oh,
especially in the 60s.
yeah. And then not only that, if they find evidence and his fingerprints are on it, they can rule it out that,
Yeah.
yes, he did touch it. But again, I agree with you. Don't touch. Just let it
Yeah.
be. As painful it is, don't touch it.
So I do believe it's because he couldn't imagine his daughter. His brain just, you know how sometimes your brain just blocks things out.
Yeah.
Remember how he said his daughter had just been stabbed in the heart, and Janice was way more brutally attacked than that. It was not just simple stab wounds.
Mm.
She was attacked more brutally than Emily. Both had been stabbed over 60 times, so that's 120
20
stab
yeah.
wounds. 7 of which were in Janice's heart.
Mm.
And Janice's intestines were out of her stomach. She had been disemboweled completely.
Wow.
And initially, the killer hadn't stabbed them with a knife. They stabbed him with a broken soda bottle, then a small knife. The small knife broke in the process of stabbing, so the killer went to the kitchen, found the chef's knife, returned to the bedroom, and kept on stabbing.
Jeez.
Whoever this dude had a lot of rage.
Apparently, against those two.
Upon closer inspection, police realized they were originally tied separately, and then the killer tied them together. Laying nearby, they found the broken blade and the broken bottle and an open jar of Noxema cream. Um,
Noxema?
Noxema.
Yeah. That crap is so freaking old. Oh my god.
Yeah. A Gillette razor blade
Uh-huh.
and a pair of women's underwear and a paper smeared with lipstick laying near Emily's head. And everything was saturated in blood.
Wow. Noxema. Jeez. Haven't heard that name in God.
Heads up.
Years.
This is gonna get a little brutal. I know I just mentioned that there's 60 times, right?
Mm.
Um Now for officers, they had seen a lot of terrible crimes. But this scene was overwhelming. This was vicious, angry, and just. After hours in the apartment, Detective John Lynch came out into the hallway and was overheard saying, "There's a slaughterhouse in there. In 12 years, I've never seen anything like it." 12 years on the police force, and he's like, "I've never seen nothing like this."
Wow.
Nearly 10 hours later, the technicians finished the initial processing of the scene, and the bodies were taken by ambulance to the morgue. That was all while Max Wiley took upon himself to call Emily's parents and tell them what happened.
Thanks, Max. I mean, very nice of him to call
Also,
the
I
parents.
forgot to write suicide warning.
Oh, okay.
Now, besides the brutality, the crime scene was baffling for investigators. There was another layer that was bothering them. Nothing was stolen. Even though the place had been ransacked, there was no sign of forced entry because the door was locked when she came in. All the jewelry was still in the dresser, and Emily's purse was still at the scene, and then there was Emily's and Janice's body. So, kind of like the career murders, house ransacked,
Yeah.
nothing stolen.
I like the lipstick killers, you mean?
Yeah, the lipstick killer. Janice had been violently SA'd, and her wounds were more severe, and she was in the nude. Emily was fully clothed, and based on how the bodies were found and lack of motive, the police ruled that Janice was the primary victim, and Emily was just wrong place, wrong time.
Oh, wow.
According to the mystery of how the killer got inside, because there was no sign of forced entry, and the doorman didn't recall anything unusual that day, and the building had no fire escape, because not only did they get in out that door that remained locked, so they determined there was no way someone had gotten in through the window. They were like, there's no way someone could crawl through a window. You can't scale the building.
Spider-Man can. Be
Um,
like Spider-Man.
because they found
Depends.
an open window in Janice's bedroom. So third floor
Right.
windows open.
There's gotta be some way, unless they rappel down.
Yeah, they're like, there's no way he could have gotten in. There's no fire escape. There's no way he could have gotten to that window. So how did he get in? They were also pretty sure there was no easy way that a stranger was involved with her, because how could a stranger break in and inflict that much brutality on someone? This has to be someone that Janice knows.
Yeah.
You and I both know people can be brutal to strangers,
Yeah.
which is where the police began to get things wrong. When you come in with an idea
Of course they do.
already, that idea is almost always wrong, especially if you hyperfocus on it. Because of the status of the victims, the murders were made the highest priority, and roughly 150 officers and detectives were assigned to the case.
Jesus.
Many of them pulled from their precincts and boroughs. And in the first press conference, Chief of Detectives Lawrence McCurney told reporters the police had no suspects, no leads. What they did have, though, was a theory that someone had come into the apartment with either a plan to murder Janice or something happened in the heat of the moment that led to her death. Again, the police were forgetting how the person walked out of the apartment and locked the door behind them
And not be seen.
and not be seen. This was supported by the fact that Emily wasn't supposed to be there, and her coming back would have been a surprise to anyone. This to them was support. This was also supported by the fact that Emily didn't have many friends there here, and if the killer was going to know anyone, the killer would be among Janice's friends,
Yeah.
since she was
The
such
most
a
popular.
yeah. So knowing she had a rich social life, they started looking in her little green book that had dozens of men and women that she had dated, and they were convinced it was someone in the book that had killed her, and it was someone she knew.
Mm-hmm.
The idea she dated women threw the police for a loop. They were so confused about that fact.
I mean,
And the fucked up thing is, they just focused on who Janice knew, not who Emily or who Pat knew.
which Pat wasn't there either,
Yeah,
and she probably still doesn't know.
yeah. So they're just focusing on Janice. They're like, those two who they know doesn't matter. We're just gonna focus on Janice. Heads up, it wasn't who any of these girls knew. It was a stranger who killed them.
Wow. And for the reasoning, the money, he thinks he's going to get money.
We will talk about that. There's an ID
Sorry.
Discovery documentary about this case.
Yeah.
And there's a quote that says, "This is a great example of cops plunging into a lifestyle that they just were way over their heads about." So they're like, okay, she dated women. Okay, how do we go about questioning? What do we like
Trying to figure out how to question women in the relationship they were having with another woman.
exactly?
So you just look at him.
They started questioning, and they go into this world, and they're like, I have no idea what any of this like. If they used terminology that is common amongst the gay community, I have no idea what this person is saying. Like that was the cops at the time, and that's kind of like why I said I was all like, all these movements were happening, and the police were behind all the movements.
Yeah.
Because this stuff is happening in real time, and the police were like, a woman dating a woman? What?
Copy and contemplation. Borrowing that.
So the police are interviewing everyone, and that included a woman that Janice had actually lived with for a little while, and her name was Pearl.
Okay.
Now, Pearl was brash, and she was not in the mood. She was like, I don't know anything. I didn't kill that girl. She was like, we cared for each other, and the cops are like, what? You cared for each other? What? And their brains were just doing the spinning circle of death you get on computers.
Mm-hmm.
Their brains were just doing that. It wasn't processing. And so her dating women became a whole thing, that she led a deviant lifestyle, and it led to her death.
Okay.
Yeah. Remember how I said smidge of homophobia?
That's not a smidge.
Now, in the meantime, Max Wiley offered the first potential lead. When he told detectives in the weeks before she died, she had been plagued by a series of obscene phone calls. All the names in Janice's book had alibis for that day and the day that the girls were killed, and they had followed up on the alibis.
Mm.
So they were not the killer. And similarly, the obscene phone calls also led nowhere. And there were obviously holes in their theory that were starting to appear. For instance, Janice had planned to go to a march on Washington that day,
Mhm.
or she would have been at work, so there was no reason for her to be at home. So this was out of her normal routine.
Right.
So the killer would have had to know her plans, which seemed unlikely since her roommates didn't know them. Or the killer was watching the apartment.
Mhm.
Now, if the killer is watching the apartment, that would mean some things and have implications, like East 88th Street was one of the nicer neighborhoods and populated with middle class people. If that was the case, and somebody was watching that apartment, they would have noticed an unfamiliar face in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that meant it could have been one of them,
Yeah.
which then raises an issue. And people were like,
Because if you live in little tight neighborhoods or communities, trust me, everybody knows everybody's business.
yeah, people knew each other here, especially if the person didn't look like they were from the area, people would know. And there was something else that somebody would have had to notice. The person leaving the complex would have had to be covered in blood,
Yeah.
and the person would have had to leave in broad daylight.
Yeah.
So, armed with this theory, police started to descend on the Upper East Side. And they built this whole new theory, and they're like, okay, so it's someone in the neighborhood. And they start canvassing all the buildings around Janice and Emily's buildings because someone would have noticed something. Now, among the detectives, there was Detective Eddie Bulger. Fuck Eddie Bulger.
Okay.
He was a detective from Brooklyn and he was brought in to assist in the case. You're going to hate him.
Oh. Okay.
Now, the detectives in Manhattan didn't seem to like him. They were appreciative of the help, but they found his approach and personality distasteful.
Okay.
Particularly how he interacted with some of the residents in and around Janice and Emily's neighborhood. According to Bulger, he claimed to have a sixth sense for knowing when people were lying. But it only worked in particular for black people.
Wow.
He
Mr.
had
Racist.
he had a sense for when black people were lying to him. My man, that is just called racism.
Yeah.
I
You dumb.
yeah. The man is a racist. Like I'm not joking. Like it wasn't like oh I have this. No, he was a raging racist. And he was known to treat black interviewers with less respect than anyone else. So he was known to treat them terribly. And since it was a high profile case, the Manhattan police were like, Bulger's racist bias is not going to help us, and he's going to take this case for us.
Oh.
And so they kicked him off the case immediately because they were already having reports of how he was interacting with people in the building. And it was clear who he was treating nicely and who he was treating shittily.
Carefully.
And they're like, he's going to tank the case for us. We can't have anything tank this case for us.
Oh no, because that's not fair to the girls who were just.
So Manhattan police were like, you're off the case. Go back to Brooklyn.
Yeah. Go back to Brooklyn.
Now, sadly, even with Bulger off the case, there was no substantial leads. And a month later, police still had nothing on the case. A police spokesman did say there was a complete lack of physical evidence and no description of the murder, not a substantial clue, not one tangible motive. And despite having none of this, police still refused to believe it could be a stranger that killed her, that a psychotic man entered her home by chance, killed them. They firmly believe that the killer knew them both. While they moved away from the original theory, they focused on Janice. This was refuted by Max, who insisted, I knew most of the men that Janice dated. They were of a decent crowd, and according to Max, there was only one I did not approve of, and Janice was infatuated with him. He was a liar and mean, and he was cruel. And he reported the man's name to investigators, and Max was like, check him out. That man was instantly checked out, and he had a rock solid alibi. He was just a shitty human being.
Mm.
Now, despite thousands of man hours and the offers of $10,000 rewards put up by Newsweek, the 1 year anniversary was coming up quick, and they didn't have a single piece of evidence that could help them solve the murder. Now, on April 14th, 1964, this is where you're going to be like, why is this connected? You're going to see. April 14th, 1964, a 46-year-old cleaning lady and a mother of 5 named Minnie Edmonds was murdered. She was stabbed to death near Sutter Avenue and Chester Street in Brooklyn by a man that was trying to steal her purse. Now, this ended up being the first big break in the case because another young woman in Brooklyn had reported to police that she had been attacked a week after Minnie Edmonds that was killed, and she was attacked in the same area. And her name was Eba Barreo, and she was also in Brooklyn. And it was around 1:30 a.m., a week after Minnie, and she was grabbed from behind by a man who held her by her throat, and then, according to her, dragged her into a doorway and was trying to steal her purse. Now, Elba screamed, and I guess he told her, "You scream, I'll kill you," and she decided to scream anyway. Her attacker ended up running away before he ran off. She managed to tear a button off of his overcoat, and a nearby patrol officer, Franazola, responded to the screams and chased the subject. And he ended up losing sight of him, but he saw another man named George Whitmore, who was 19 at the time, and though he was shorter and skinnier and didn't match the build of the person he saw running away from the scene, and he didn't look like what had been described, the following day, Detective Azola and his partner Richard Adia was on patrol in the same neighborhood, spotted Whitmore again, and arrested him.
Wow.
You want to guess what ethnicity?
Black.
Yep, Whitmore was. It should be noted, Whitmore was a black man. So this man is running. This detective chasing him. He sees another man, different build, different weight.
And he ain't running.
He's not running. He's just standing there. Looks completely different. Probably not even wearing the same jacket. Next day, he sees him again and he arrests him. Why didn't you arrest him that first day if you thought it was him?
Yeah.
So the police then called Elba. And this is where I say police negligence and a little bit of police negligence. And they were like, "We have a suspect. I need you to identify him." And she was like, "I never saw his face." And they were still like, "Come down and identify him."
Yeah.
So she never saw his face. And they still were like, "You come down here and identify him."
Right, bossy pants.
So now, proper procedure to do a lineup is, right, you line them up and then the person goes, "Oh, it's number 5. Number 5, step forward, everyone else leave," right? That's the normal lineup. The officers took her to the door of the interview room where Whitmore was, and she was like, "I don't know. Can I hear him speak?" And they had him say something, and she went, "Yeah, that's him." Do you want to know why people they don't identify people when they're in an interview room? Why they don't give them a person? Because that automatically taints the victim's mind. Because if the victim has a blurry memory, she sees someone in an interview room, they assume an automatic sense of guilt.
Yeah.
They are more willing to say, "Yeah, that was him," when it wasn't. It was
And she felt pressured by the police too.
exactly.
By them sitting there saying, "Come down here and identify." Well,
I mean,
didn't
later
see
we
him.
find out she is also not that innocent,
Yeah.
but yeah, she felt pressured by police. Is this him? Can he say something? Say something. Yeah, that's him.
I would have had him repeat what the guy said to her. "If you scream, I will kill you."
Yeah.
That's what you should have had him say.
So as Elba was helping identify her attacker, which she wasn't helping identify her attacker, she was being given a person saying, "Is this him? Yes or no?"
Yeah.
Which is not how you do lineups. That is not how you identify a suspect.
No.
She was overheard so she's taken by the interview room. Do you also know why they take the lineup room is separated from the rest of the offices?
No. like noise reduction or something like that?
You cannot hear what other officers are saying. You cannot taint the victim's mind in any form of way. You need to give them a clear head. You need to not be able to sway them in any way. If you can prove that she was swayed, you lose the case.
Which in this case, they would have lost because she was tainted.
Well,
They
what
swayed
made
her.
it worse was Elba was helping identify her attacker, and she overheard a nearby detective, Eddie Bolger,
Yeah.
and he was being bitter about being kicked off the case, so he wanted to solve the case.
Okay.
So Detective Bolger saw this as his moment, and he was given permission to interview Whitmore.
Okay.
According to Bolger, when officers searched Whitmore, they found several photos of women, and when asked who this woman was, Whitmore said he found the photos and he had been showing them to his friends to make them think she was his girlfriend. It happened.
Okay.
What? The fucking Napoleon Dynamite did it.
I mean, gotta make yourself look good.
Detective Bolger was like, no, that's a photo of Janice Wiley. And then he said that Whitmore was the killer of Janice Wiley and Emily Hoffer.
So you can't really go off of a photo.
So we're going to
But
talk
then I
more about that
guess-
photo. We're going to talk more about that photo.
Then I guess you can.
Detectives interrogated Whitmore for 26 hours straight.
Hopefully they're
By the way, that's not allowed. You have to give breaks. You cannot question somebody for 26 hours straight.
and because at the same time, if you have nothing on them, you have to let them go.
Yeah, you have to let them go. Plus, on top of it, interviewing someone for 26 hours straight is also could be viewed as a form of torture, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Because that also means you're depriving them of sleep, which is a form of torture. So, after 26 hours, Whitmore confessed to the assaults of Elba Barrero and the murder of Janice Wiley and Emily Hoffer. He also confessed to the murder of Minnie Edmonds. Now, during his detainment, he was never informed of his rights or asked if he wanted a lawyer.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a little bit later on about Whitmore. Just a heads up. Whitmore is a little bit slower
Okay.
on like
So he has a
understanding
disability.
and processing. I wouldn't say disability, but he processes things a little slower than a normal person. So questioning him for 26 hours and not informing him he has rights, you're just an asshole. That's why I said police brutality ? Because to me that is a form of brutality.
Mm-hmm.
You're forcing a man to confess to a crime. Now, the interrogation ended with him signing a 61-page confession.
If you were his attorney, you wouldn't have had him sign that.
That included intimate details of the Wiley Hoff murders, with only info the killer or someone at the scene would have or the detectives would have,
Mm-hmm.
including the description of the broken bottle during the attack and the knives used to kill both women. The fact that the knife broke and all those details were not released to the public, according to Whitmore. Released to the public. According to Whitmore, he had entered the building unseen.
Okay.
He said he somehow got into the apartment building and had been going to the roof when he went down the wrong corridor. He couldn't say why he went down the wrong one. He just said he entered the wrong one on the third floor and just began trying on the door until he came to Janice and Emily's, which he found unlocked.
Hmm.
Mind you, Pat said she made sure the door was locked.
Yeah.
The details were completely wrong, but that, of course, didn't matter. So, for 8 months, police in Manhattan had been under intense pressure to solve the Wiley Hoffer murder case. and they had not made a single step of progress, despite them putting in all the effort, doing the actual police work.
Yeah.
Because of the reports of Whitmore's arrest came as a huge relief, not just to the residents of New York, but also the investigators and politicians who were feeling the pressure. So it was not a good mix because everyone was relieved. They got the guy, even though, heads up, it's not the right man. Within days of his arrest, several people began to doubt the credibility of the confession and his arraignment for the murder of Minnie Edmonds. So he actually recanted his confession with his lawyer, telling the judge he had been coerced into signing the document by Brooklyn detectives and was beaten into it during the interrogation.
Oops.
George even requested a polygraph test to prove he was telling the truth. Despite his continued claims of innocence, Deputy Police Commissioner Walter Arm told reporters this man came up with details that could have only been known by no one but the police and the man that committed the crime. He had information that was never released publicly. Brooklyn District Attorney Edward Silver made similar remarks to the press. He said, "I would not have processed as speedily if I did not have more than a confession." Now, for some of the investigators in Manhattan, it was the extent of details that also caused them to be suspicious. In fact, they thought the confession was a little too good, a little too detailed.
Yeah.
It did not only contain information never released to the public, it also contained details so small that only a person processing the scene with a keen eye would
Would know
notice
about
it.
it.
The photos that Detective Bulger said were Janice Wiley, the ones that Whitmore said he found and he was using to tell people she was his girlfriend.
Yeah.
When Max was asked to look at the photos, he said they were not of his daughter and he'd never seen the woman in the photos before.
Oh, wow.
And he was definitive about that.
I mean, you're going to know your daughter.
Yeah. There was also the fact that George Whitmore had an alibi. He was at work when it happened washing dishes in a Willard, New Jersey restaurant at the time of the murder.
Wow.
All of George's coworkers confirmed he was there, and they remember him being there.
Wow. She's like, that stupid cat toy's in the way.
And the reason they remembered him being there was because they were all watching a televised speech given by Martin Luther King Jr. at the March on Washington.
Mm.
The police still refused to believe George and said he was the killer. In October, Whitmore's attorney successfully petitioned the court for his client to be evaluated by a psychologist at the very least. And after what he described as the longest study of one patient in Bellevue's history, the director of psychiatry, Dr. Arthur Zittrain, declared George Whitmore sane and able to stand trial for the murder of Minnie Edmonds. But just because he was declared sane didn't mean he was competent to stand trial. He dropped out of school in 8th grade, and he had an IQ that was below average, so he didn't know and understand the gravity of everything.
Wow.
Despite there being questions surrounding the confession, the DA for Brooklyn moved forward with the case against George for the assault of Elba Barrero. In November 1964, George Whitmore went on trial in Brooklyn
Mm-hmm.
for the attempted essay of Elba Barrero. And in court, Barrero told the jury that whoever attacked her had caught up with her on the sidewalk and grabbed her from behind. She said he snatched her pocketbook, placed his right hand over her mouth and his left hand around her neck, and said, "If you scream, I'll kill you." Right? That's what she
That's
told
right.
the police originally.
Yeah.
Barrero now claimed that she and her attacker walked face to face for 2 blocks to 192 Bristol Street, where the assailant took her down a flight of stairs to the basement, pressed her against a wall, and briefly removed his hand from her mouth, and that's when she started screaming. Tell me, how can you walk face to face with someone on the street and no one notice?
Yeah. There'd be people that would be paying attention to that.
Following her testimony, Elba identified George as a person that attacked her. Now, under cross examination, Elba Barrera admitted to Whitmore's defense attorney, Jerome Leflow, that she had already met with lawyers to discuss the $10,000 reward money that Newsweek put up.
Oh. Well,
And whether she had met before or after her appearance before the grand jury, she replied, I don't know.
of course you know, sweetie.
On redirect, she told the DA she had been entirely unaware of the reward before she went to the grand jury.
Sure
A
she did.
week after testimony, an all white, all male jury deliberated for 9 hours before finding him guilty of the assault and attempted SA of Elba Barrero. The conviction carried a maximum sentence of 10 years for the attempted SA and 5 years for the assault.
Mhm.
And they said if a psychologist found him to be perpetual sexual menace to the community, he would be imprisoned for life.
But did they get a psychologist to do that? Because they wanted a psychologist to do it.
Judge David Malbon elected to withhold sentencing in the case until the outcome of the other case for the murder of Wiley Hoffett and Minnie Edmond. Now, while they awaited the judge's decision, Jerome Leflow petitioned the court for a new trial after receiving a sworn affidavit from one of the jurors claiming another member of the jury made invidious remarks to the jury room about black people. The affidavit also noted the trial for the attack on Barrero. The jury was made aware of the other crimes he was being charged with, which is not okay. Leflow argued this could have furthered the bias against Whitmore, and the prosecution and judge were resistant to the claims, with Judge Malbon telling a reporter, I'm not going to make a searching inquiry. We want to protect the sanctity of the jury as to what happens in the jury room during the deliberations. During the deliberations. Basically, he was like, we're not going to investigate because juries deserve to be private. I don't care that one of them is racist and could have completely swayed the jury.
Racist judge.
Yeah. One of the jury later came forward and said what was said is nothing compared to what he's going to get in New York.
That's a threat.
They had assumed his guilt and was giddy at the prospect of him being found guilty. While the prosecution and majority of law enforcement was committed to believing Whitmore's confession and guilt were genuine, there were quite a few who were still skeptical. Now, 2 months after his conviction for the attack on Elba Barrero, a source within the Manhattan DA's office told reporters that the case against Whitmore was shot full of holes. Now, officially, the DA's office refused to comment on the state of the case against Whitmore, but there were many in the press that thought the case against him was going to be dropped. Now, the DA's office was not the only skeptical about the potential trial for George Whitmore. His own lawyers were like, this is going to be dropped. They were more than happy to say why his lawyers believe so. They said the facts showed that a picture the police said was of Miss Wiley was supposedly stolen from the Whitmore apartment. It was stolen by Whitmore from her apartment, and instead, the photo was a girl named Arlene Franco that lived in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
He had found it in a junkyard his dad owned, and he had found it in the trash, like he said. Whitmore's lawyers continued to list the inconsistencies in this case, including the fact he was located in New Jersey when the crimes were happening, and he had the intelligence of around 60, and could not comprehend the language the confession used, and the button that Elba ripped off the coat. The FBI actually gave a report that stated it didn't match Whitmore's coat.
Oh yeah, because there probably wasn't a button missing.
Yeah, there wasn't, and also the fabric didn't match either. They had used that button in court and it didn't even match.
So
Elba was like, I ripped off this button. It didn't even match his coat.
So you don't get $10,000. You do not pass go. You go straight to jail.
2 months after this, Judge Davis Malbin, who had not wanted to hear about the racist jury, did not also want to hear the evidence as to why this man didn't commit the crime. But he had to. He vacated Whitmore's conviction, saying it was determined the jury was racially biased and was influenced by learning of other charges against him. Which is weird that 2 months after saying he's going to protect the jury, he decided to vacate it. I think he was a little bit pressured by the press and everything like
Yeah.
that. Now, given all of this, you would think the charges would be dropped.
No.
You would be right. Yeah, they weren't. In April, the DA in the Edmonds murder proceeded as if there wasn't a bunch of issues. In that case, the jury was deadlocked, but the prosecutor vowed to try Whitmore again. So the Minnie Edmonds murder, they decided to try him for the Minnie Edmonds murder. Jury became deadlocked. DA's like, I'm going to try it again. All while that case was happening, the DA in Manhattan decided not to pursue the case against him, but that did not mark the end of his legal troubles for George Whitmore. The following year, the DA in Brooklyn retried him for the attack of Barrero, and he was found guilty again. He was sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison. This conviction would be overturned a year later on the grounds that the judge refused to allow the defense to cross-examine the police on the false confession in the Wiley Hofford case. Fun little fact, the same judge it was the same judge that tried him on his first case.
We have a great judicial system.
Now, in the same year, it came out that Whitmore was under the influence of truth serum when he was evaluated in Bellevue Hospital before it all began. But when he was under the influence, he refused to admit guilt, and he kept insisting he was innocent. He also kept saying, my confession was coerced. I was beaten into saying it. Now, this prompted an investigation because did you beat him out into it? And days after, it was revealed to the New York governor, Nelson Rockefeller, he refused the investigation. He refused to do the investigation to see if the confession was beaten out of him.
Because he probably figured that was more or less true.
He said he had no jurisdiction over the court system, and therefore it would be inappropriate to seek to intervene in matters pending before them.
God.
The DA's office tried Whitmore a third time. And again, he was convicted and sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison. By 1972, he started to lose hope in clearing his name. Then a journalist from the New York Telegram received an affidavit from Elba Barrero's sister, stating prior to identifying George Whitmore as her attacker, Elba had also identified 2 other men.
God.
And Elba had only identified him after Detective Bulger and his department made her aware of the $10,000 reward being offered by Newsweek, which is when she changed her statement. At the request of the new DA, Eugene Gold, the case was reopened and the statements from Elba's sister was investigated, and it was confirmed. And that was when Whitmore's convictions were again overturned and he was officially exonerated. After being released from prison in 1973, George sued for violations of his civil rights. But he did lose that particular case. He did win another case, though, and he won about $500,000 when he bought a small dairy farm. But he couldn't hold on to the dairy farm, and he ended up losing it. And I'm going to talk a little bit what happens after he loses the farm. His case did end up being a catalyst for the abolition of the death penalty in New York, and also aided in the Supreme Court's ruling of Miranda v. Arizona in 1966, which guaranteed the rights of criminal suspects the right to consult an attorney.
Well, makes sense.
Because before this, police didn't have to tell you that was a right of yours.
Now they have to.
Yeah, because of Miranda v. Arizona. In October 1964, police arrested a 35-year-old Nathan Delaney for the murder of a rival drug dealer, and this was his 3rd arrest for a violent crime. And so he was going to get the death penalty. This was before they abolished it. He was going to get the death penalty, and well, he told the DA, "You take the death penalty off the table, I'll tell you he killed Wiley and Hofford." So the DA, wanting to know, agreed. Now, according to Nathan, he was chilling at home when he said there was a knock on the door, and when he opened it, he was surprised to see his acquaintance, Richard Ricky Robles,
So that fight sounds fast.
was covered in blood and shaken. Ricky had just been released from prison and he had gone out looking for drug money and he had killed two women. He technically said, I iced two dames.
Sounds about right for the lingo.
Delaney claimed he gave him a new set of clothes and Delaney's wife gave him a trash bag for the bloody clothes.
Conspiracies, conspirators.
Now, Nathan agreed to wear a wire and, with his wife present, got Ricky into a conversation. And during that conversation, Ricky admitted to killing Janice and Emily on a wire, so it was all recorded. And it was submitted to the prosecutor, and the taped confession was enough for his arrest. Ricky Robles was taken in on January 27th, 1965, at the station. Ricky maintained his innocence and asked for a lawyer, and he was, of course, given a lawyer and read his rights. He was promptly given a lawyer, and the two were left alone in an administrative office. And after 25 minutes, Robles' lawyer said, I need to leave the room, and he asked officers to watch his client. In the interrogation room, the detectives tried to give him food, and he refused. And one detective looked at him and was like, Did you ever think it would wind up this way? And without thinking, Ricky Robles looked at him and said, after what he read in the papers, he knew someday he would get arrested.
Wow.
Fun thing, they were able to use that as a form of confession because they weren't asking him questions. They were like, Did you ever think it would end up this way?
That's like the question that they only needed to ask, apparently.
Yeah. Now, da, 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 da. Now, when they asked what happened, he said, I went to pull a lousy burglary and wound up killing two girls. He said he had gone out with the intention of finding an apartment to rob, which led him to the building on East 88th Street. He chose that one because there was no doorman, which either the doorman wasn't present at the time or he had gone to a bathroom or something like that. When he entered the lobby, no one was present, and he was able to get into the maintenance corridor and found his way to the third floor when he found all the doors locked. Robles poked his head out the window and saw that a window was open to 5C. So he climbed out on the ledge and slid over to the window, which was how he got in the apartment. So he sneaks into the room, and it was Janice's room, and he finds her in a room with only a sheet on her. She was sleeping, and he decided to essay her. Now, according to Delaney's wife, Robles, while sleeping, Janice heard the door open and the girl with the glasses came in. Oh,
Emily.
While he was essaying Janice, he heard the door open and the girl with the glasses came in.
Okay.
So Delaney's wife told police that this is what he had told him. And as she got to him, he tried to take her glasses off her face, and she said, "Don't touch me. Leave my glasses alone." So Robles tied the two women together. He heard Janice tell Emily to do as he said, and they won't get hurt. Emily was angry though. She repeatedly said, I want to get a good look at him so I can identify him later." This caused Ricky to panic, and he went to the kitchen, which, according to Delaney's wife, he thought about it over 55 minutes and decided that he was going to kill him. So he sat there for a little bit. He then grabbed the glass bottle, a kitchen knife, and stabbed both women to death. With both of them dead, he stole 20 to 30 from Emily's purse and then fled the building. Ricky Robles went to trial for the murders in October 1965, and the jury deliberated 5 hours before finding him guilty. Guilty of 2 charges of felony murder in the first degree. After the verdict was read, reporters asked Assistant DA John Keenan why police pursued George Whitmore, and Keenan replied there were good and bad policemen, and he insisted that defense had used Whitmore as a smokescreen to cloud the case. A month later, Ricky was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole after 26 with the possibility of parole after 26 years. He never got parole.
Good.
Now you may ask, did anything happen to the officers that were involved in the abuse and false imprisonment? And the answer is no, nothing happened to them.
They kept their jobs.
George Whitmore, after losing the dairy farm, owned and operated a fishing boat, which he later became disabled on.
All I'm
Yeah.
thinking, Forrest Gump.
So he began working odd jobs so he could still maintain money. And George struggled a lot after this, and he went through a lot. And he actually ended up dying of a heart attack on October 8th, 2012, at the age of 68.
Oh, was he
Although,
on his boat?
no, he couldn't, he had to sell the boat because he couldn't be on the boat.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Dan.
He was survived. So even though he never married, he is survived by 4 daughters, 2 sons, and he had more than 20 grandchildren.
Definitely tell they didn't have TV.
Well, he had 6 kids, and they have
That's still, TV.
6 kids. What's 20 divided by 6?
A lot. That's a lot. Watch, it's gonna come
That's
up.
about 3.3 kids each.
Well, you ain't getting all your kid on this one.
And 20 grandchildren.
So almost 4,
Mhm.
almost about 4 kids.
Yeah.
Each.
And
Jeez.
even though he was exonerated, he became one of the most taught examples in schools of coercion and false arrests in the United States. New York never tried to make it right or take responsibility for it.
I don't think we learned about him. Being honest. Like in history class and stuff like
No,
that?
we never. So in school,
Mm.
school, we never learned about him. In my criminal justice case, I did remember learning
Okay.
about George Whitmore. When you are learning about the criminal justice system, you learn about George Whitmore. You learn about false confessions. You learn about
Okay.
coercion and
So
all
the
that other
college
stuff.
part of it.
Yeah. You're not going to learn about this in school because I hate to say it, they don't want you to learn this in school because they want, I hate to say it, they want when you're on a jury to be stupid and just take what the prosecution has to say.
No, thank you. Because if that's the case, I know it has nothing to do with this case. Johnny Depp would have been in jail
Yeah.
for his abuse and shit like that. He didn't do because of Amber.
Yeah. I think, but it's also at the same time, they want you to just take everything at face value. They don't want you to understand that there are bad police officers on the force that can force confessions, coerce people, beat people.
Look at, so I had asked about freedom riders, and I
Mhm.
know I've brought this up in previous videos years ago, a few years back. Well, after I think it was either I had started this in 2013, the channel, and I really didn't do much with it. But the reason why I asked if this was about around the freedom rider time because
Mhm.
John's dad was part of freedom riders, right? And if you've seen the movie or you've heard the story, you've heard the history. I'm not going to call it a
Mhm.
story, but the history behind it, whether it be from in a movie or you personally hear it from the people that were on the Freedom Rider bus, that they stopped the bus that his dad was on, and he was almost pretty much almost the only white person on a all black bus. And I mean, his dad can correct me if I'm wrong. Um, but when they had everybody off the bus, they actually went after his dad. I mean, everybody got something happened to him.
Mhm.
But if you hear about his side of it, it sounds like he got the worst. They broke his back, knocked teeth out. And you can find photos. You can literally find photos of John's dad laying in a hospital bed and how bad. You can even sit there and see where he's leaning up against a post and looking down, and he said he would spit his own teeth out because they literally knocked out his teeth. And the most recent gentleman that passed was Lewis,
Mhm.
and that was his dad's best friend. So very hard on his dad because he lost his best friend. But when I first found out, I didn't know that I didn't know about that. I believe we learned about it in school. I just don't remember learning about it. And I would, told his dad, "Thank you." Because if it wasn't for you and the group of people that you were with, we wouldn't have what we have today. The rights that we all have, the civil rights that we have, that if we get arrested, well, you got to read me rights before you can say anything to me. So I have a lot of respect for a lot of people. Yes, I do crack jokes because the people will say, I had a dream. It's like, that's what Martin Luther King said. So I do. And it's not to be disrespectful to Martin Luther King at all. I had a lot of respect for him. I had a lot of respect for, John's dad and what he did and everybody that went through all that. Crooked police, I ain't got no respect for you. My brother in law was a police officer. Much respect for him. I have a lot of respect for authority. Well, right at this moment, maybe not the highest authority, of who sits in a big old house in Washington, D.C. is called the White House. Just saying. No respect for you at all. No respect for the people that you are harming. If you want to harm people and you feel that, oh, the only way I can harm someone is be a police officer or be in the government, get out.
And I will also say there's a lot of, like, I found out something today and I was not aware of it. There's been actually Supreme Court rulings on it that if like this is after what happened in Minneapolis.
Mhm.
For police officers, if a car is coming towards you, you do not have the right to shoot a moving vehicle if the car is coming towards you. If you step in front of a moving vehicle, you do not have a right to shoot the person inside the car.
And the thing with
Because you put yourself in danger.
yes, you
They
did.
did not put you in danger. You put yourself in danger by stepping in front of that car.
Exactly.
So having that, yeah, of course, people who, it's kind of like the thing of, I don't remember where I read it, of, I will not bend the knee to any man
Hmm.
who demands respect and doesn't earn it.
Yep, I will agree with that.
I'm not going to listen to somebody who demands that I listen to them, but doesn't have me earn their respect.
Yep.
Doesn't earn my respect.
And let me tell you, we learn about a lot about the news
Hmm.
from this one over here. I don't care to watch the news for the simple fact of it's nothing but negative. I understand I should, but in all honesty, does it all pertain to me? Yes and no.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes and no because it pertains to me because of the person that's sitting in office and what he's doing and the effects that are happening. You have part of it does affect me. More of it does not affect me. Let me say it this way: more of it does not affect me, and less of it does affect me, if that makes sense. That now, if you're a waitress of some kind, you get taxed, but you don't, what is it? You don't get taxed on
So
tips or something like that?
taxed on the idea of being taxed on tips, you're still getting, you have to report your taxes. Most times waiters and waitresses keep their tax. If they get cash tips, they don't
They don't
usually
say
report it.
anything. Yeah.
Now if you want to get untaxed on tips, you have to report your tips, get taxed on your tips, and then get a refund back.
Yeah. So, and when I was a waitress, and I waitress before, knew more than once, never did I have to report my tips to anybody.
Hmm.
No, never did I have to sit there and say, "Oh, let me put this in my
So
taxes."
basically the tax on tips thing, most people are realizing it's kind of like the tax on, no tax on overtime. No, our overtime is still getting taxed.
Yes, it
It's just
is.
at the end of the year when we do the IRS thing,
Yeah, it
now
gets
we
that
get
way.
it back. Except we only get the test amount that was taxed on the half. Not
Yeah,
the full time and a half, just the half.
yeah. So there's a lot, and I just don't. John, if John turns the TV on to watch the news, it'll start talking about things. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to hear no more because it comes out to where it is negative.
Hmm.
You know, a lot of the cases that we do, media,
Media, and I hate
media,
to say it,
news. I mean, back in the day, I don't know if they had the news back then, but they had
they did,
newspaper,
yeah.
media.
We're in an age, I will say, of a 24-hour news cycle, which is unheard of. The 24-hour news cycle did not start until television began.
Yeah. And we don't really watch. I don't really watch.
I will say,
I don't really watch much TV anymore. If I have it, like right now, you can hear our TV.
Mhm.
You can't hear our TV, but I like it on for background noise. That's it.
and see, I don't like the news because the news is biased in many different ways. All kinds of news are biased. What I prefer, independent reporters,
Hmm. Getting
people
it.
who are not affiliated with these things. Sometimes, like for example, the thing that happened in Minneapolis. New York Times did a great video summary where
Mhm.
they found the 3 different clips
And put it
and
together.
they pieced it together. And then they not only showed the clips together in a row so you can see what happened in Minneapolis, they then showed the clips that happened afterwards, the denying of the doctor and everything like that. The gave reports from EMS, even gave like a call log from EMS. So they broke it down. And that again,
That's a news group
mhm,
crew that is willing to dig further and dig deeper. Now,
exactly.
mind you, you do have your little small town. Sorry for the glare, folks. The sun's coming down over the window over there.
Oh.
Um, so you can't see my face. I could be
And
sleeping.
that's the thing, the small news journalism
Oh,
is an art that needs to be protected
that
because small news journalism is important.
hurts.
We've recently been getting newspapers at work, and I've been half tempted to go up to work and buy them because it's good to support your local
But you know
newspapers.
what's funny though is we only get a few.
Yeah,
We
we only,
don't get a whole stack
and I
like we
guess we're
used
not
to.
being charged.
Well, damn, just take
They're
it from the door.
disappearing.
I'm only just taking it from the door then.
Um,
Because in all honesty, we were talking about newspaper, and do I read the newspaper? No. What did I go for? The comics. I went for the funnies and the coupons. And then when we were in school and we were in economics, then had the newspaper and things like that. I don't mind the newspaper. I don't mind reading the paper. I don't mind hearing it. But right now in this day and age, with the people who we have running things, and oh, we're doing this for the American people. No, you're not.
I think also the 24-hour news cycle,
Hmm.
like it used to be before, right? If something major happened, you would hear about it in the morning. Like for example, with what happened in Venezuela, you would hear about that. Like we like when it was like it would happen like on a Friday night. You would hear about it
The next day.
Saturday morning.
Yeah.
It would be like or even like maybe even Sunday morning because if it had happened so late that the Saturday morning paper couldn't get to it
Yeah.
and couldn't print it out
It
in
might
time,
have like a delay.
it might be a delay. Now, with the creation of social media, the bombs were dropping in Venezuela and it was being posted on the internet and things as soon as it was happening, Americans like people were becoming aware of it.
Hmm.
People were talking about it. And I think that's different from anything in the past. I think it's why people are tired of the news. 24 hours of news, I get tired of it. And I'm like, I'm taking a break from the news. I can't. And then I hear something and I'm like, I gotta pay attention because if something happens, I gotta know that it's happening.
Hmm.
Like,
If anything ever happens, we know who to go to. I mean, we
like,
know she'll tell us,
like,
and
I guess there's been recent talk about bombing cartels,
yeah,
specifically bombing cartels in Mexico. We live close to the border. It's important for us to know if this is going to be happening.
my mom lives even closer.
Exactly.
She's right there at the bridge.
Exactly. So that's information. I hear that and I'm like, I'm tired. I'm like, you know what? After everything that's happened, I'm going to take a little break. I'm just going to, as soon as I see a news feed, I'm going to scroll. And then I see that and I'm like, fuck. I got to go back.
Yeah, mine is, you know, I don't like hearing negative, and that poor woman
Mhm.
and her child, who now is motherless, and the mom, the grandmother, I should say,
Mhm.
now has no daughter,
And then her
eh,
partner, who
is now without.
her partner is now
Well,
without.
then, if that's the case, then the child will go to the
Maybe,
partner.
well, that's the thing. I'm not sure if they were officially married or if they were just
Mm,
dating because she had just lost her husband. So
yeah,
I'm not sure if
that
they
she
had
moved into
they
that
were
second.
just partners because it was the grandma couldn't go back to Minneapolis. She couldn't go to Minneapolis. The grandfather had to get on planes and get the kid.
Mm, okay.
So it's just that is a heart wrenching story. And I've seen a lot of people call out, I don't believe anyone should die, right?
Mm-mm.
That whole incident with Charlie Kirk. People have made an astute observation. If you were mad about the death of Charlie Kirk, you should also be mad about this woman's death.
Yeah, rightfully. I agree with that.
Because
Who gives a crap? No disrespect to Charlie Kirk's wife. Who gives a crap what she's doing? You should, like she's saying, if you were irritated and pissed off at what happened to that man, I didn't follow the guy.
Mhm.
I barely heard about him, and I was like, I love their what I remember and what I started learning about Charlie Kirk was the cute videos that she would make. Hey, what's your thing for the day? And they did that all the time. And then I watched a little bit of going to the colleges and him debating with people. God, I felt sorry for that man dealing with some of them college students. So, and it's the whole pregnancy thing, and I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm like, okay, I got to get off this because I want to reach to this phone and punch her. I was like,
Yeah.
no. And then watching what happened, and I've seen the video more than once to watch how it happened.
Mhm.
And for them to say, oh, it came from this way, no, it came from this way.
Yeah.
But
And
aside from that, the whole thing, I'm very glad somebody caught it on video.
Mhm.
So everybody that has been recording, because that's the one thing that we talked about.
And think about what happened in Portland, Oregon. Nobody recorded, so we don't know exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
All we know is in Portland, Oregon, I don't know why Customs and Border Patrol is in Oregon.
You,
Portland, Oregon.
I'm so I do, I do. I watch drug shows. I do on Wednesdays. I'll be like, no joke. I'm not watching drug shows to know what type of. Well, I kind of do. So there is a border in Portland, Oregon,
Ah.
because people will try to what do you push? I'm just going to say push because I forgot what the word was to get drugs
Through.
from Canada past the border.
Ah.
So there's one in Portland, Oregon. There's obviously going to be one close to New York, Michigan,
Well,
all of those
okay,
places.
so I understand Border and Customs Patrol doing that.
Hmm.
They were pulling somebody over,
Hmm.
and they pulled somebody over, and we don't know what happened. All we know is a husband and wife were in the vehicle. Husband and wife was shot.
Oh wow.
The person who called the police was the people who were shot. They left the scene. That's all we know. The FBI of Portland's FBI is looking into it
Mm.
because they're like, these were federal officers. They have to investigate.
Yeah. Wait. The couple was federal officers,
No.
or the federal officers
They
shot
were shot
the
by
people?
federal officers.
Oh, okay.
They were shot by border, and it's a bad time.
Everything is happening. Everybody thinks they have, and I'm saying everybody thinks they have power to
They have
do what
power and
they want.
immunity. They've been emboldened to do whatever they want.
Pretty much.
It's like, and I hate to say this, it's like these killers.
Boop.
When they get an ounce of power, they get a
High.
trip off of it.
Yes, they
They
do.
get a high off of
And
it.
the past few cases that you've
and
done.
they seek
Yep.
that power.
And they do. And it's like, I don't know what the heck you're thinking. So yes, the Border Patrol for Oregon is to help control the trafficking of drugs.
But I don't understand.
But why would two people do what they did to that couple? That's
Why
baffling.
would they flee the scene if they didn't do anything wrong? From what I also
And
heard,
mind you, there are cameras.
they should be wearing body cameras. And then
not just that, but there's also wherever they were at.
And then I guess also they said that the car was being rammed towards them, which I don't understand. If you're pulling someone over, you're off to the side. How can a car try to? Again,
we don't know the whole story
because it was happened in the middle of the night,
and
it was actually really it was heartbreaking to see. Like they were at protests. There's multiple protests going on for what happened in Minnesota. I think it's Renee
Good.
Renee Good
is her name.
There's protests. because of they're gathering, they're holding protests, they're
And so you know who the protest is against? It's against ICE,
yes.
by the way.
They're very much mad about this. And it was sad to see that as soon as the news broke of what happened in Portland, Oregon, people were saying, hey, they were doing their little thing, and they said 2 more people have been shot. I think last year was the deadliest year for ICE. 35 people died as a result.
I think so.
On New Year's Day, a gentleman was shot by ICE.
Yeah.
And nobody covered it because nobody was watching. Nobody was recording.
But now, ever since that happened last year, now everybody's recording.
Everyone is paying attention to
Everybody
what is
is
going
looking
on.
at what's going
Everyone
on.
is realizing the only thing, and I hate that is such a messed up thing to say, is the only way you can stay safe is if you're recording.
Yep. I remember when. Okay, so there is a governor. I think he's governor. I can't stand him. You know where I'm going with this. Cannot stand the man. If it'd be so awesome if he could see one of our
Little things.
our things, and I'm just gonna say, run for president. I don't like you, but please,
But
please, come on, like. Even hearing the different governors from the different states stand up and say,
did you hear the Minneapolis
yes, I
governor?
did. Get the fuck out of Minneapolis. I'm
Get
like,
the fuck out. And
yeah.
then after that, not only did he say that, now people are like, oh my gosh, he said, get the fuck out. And he's like, okay, moral high ground. What's wrong with saying fuck? What's wrong? Murder. What's worse?
He's like, y'all are adults. Understand.
So we're going on a little tangent. I'm not done.
Oh, I thought we were done. That's why
Oh,
we were on the tangent.
we're almost done.
Okay, I thought we were sorry.
We went on a little
We
tangent.
went on a little
I'm sorry.
tangent,
A little
but
political tangent.
I thought that, which we don't normally do,
No, we don't.
but it was probably kind of needed. But I
yeah.
thought we were done.
No.
My bad.
No. But I think also if this happened nowadays, I think there would be a lot more news media of what happened and occurred, and there would be a lot more talk about it. There would be a lot more call to the injustice of this case.
Yeah.
Which I think is something we've grown. Are we perfect
God,
when it comes to
no.
this? No, this is still happening to this day and age. But we've gotten a little bit better. Just a little bit. I would just say it's just a smidge.
Yeah. There's two sides to every story. I'm gonna leave that right there. To me, there's two sides. I guess for me, I can't tell if we've gotten better because I don't pay attention to that stuff.
The only reason
I don't
say
look at it.
the only reason I say we've gotten better is because people, like, let's say you were to hear about this case. This case is happening right now. You were to hear about it. You would know about it and you would make your opinion. You would be like, okay, that's a little fucked up.
Yeah, I would, because the person's not being, and I get back in the 60s, they weren't treated equally, but
everyone should be treated.
Yes, everybody should have that opportunity.
If this case were to happen now, right? I think the part that where we've grown is people are willing to stand together.
Yes, I do agree with that.
I think a lot more people are willing to stand together. And sometimes, I hate to say it, sometimes it takes some throwing at snowballs at people.
That was funny.
To get action.
I like that.
Sometimes and it takes a group of people coming together saying enough. And
they literally drove them out with snowballs. You can't say they were attacking them. They were having a snowball fight.
Yeah. One-sided snowball fight. But still a snowball fight. But
bet people pack them suckers hard too.
But I think also we're more willing to come together. We're more willing to overlook things that we know.
Yeah.
And are more willing to go, let's come together and fix this issue. The fact that New York never really took accountability for their action in this case.
Yeah.
Now that would have never flied. New York would have to take accountability because the amount of people who'd be like, shame
Excuse
on
me.
you.
Oh yeah.
I think that's where we've grown. Yes, we have gotten
People
better.
aren't as much people aren't as afraid to stand up for
Exactly.
themselves or for others.
I think also we're really angry right now, and that's also we're trying to find a way to vent our rage. But I think also not only that, there's a few more checks to make sure confessions are not coerced.
Mhm.
There's a few more things in the justice system. Is it a perfect justice system? No. Is there still
Far from it.
statistics saying that Black men are wrongly incarcerated at a higher rate than anyone else? Yes.
Yes. Mhm.
Because of various factors. So, are we perfect? Absolutely not.
Far from it.
Perfection is thousands of
Stop it.
years in the future. But have we gotten a little better? Yes. So, after he dies, right? New York never tried to make right what happened. On September 24th, 1969, Janice's mom, Isabel, died of cancer.
Ooh.
And the following year, Pam, Janice's sister, also died of pneumonia.
Oh geez.
Max Wiley checked into a motel in Fredericksburg, Virginia on September 21st, 1975. And after calling the
Excuse me.
front desk to say he was having a heart attack, he shot himself with a .38 caliber revolver.
Okay. Dad. Okay, Dad.
He lost everyone. He lost his daughter who he loved, he lost his wife to cancer, and he lost his other daughter. And he tried I think his oldest daughter died in 69. So he
Uh-huh.
held on for 6 years.
Wow.
And then he just
Couldn't take it.
no. What may have also made it a little bit worse. So he died I think he died after he was charged.
Yeah.
He died after he was charged. I think it was 10 years after he was charged. So it was during the trial. It was revealed that the police had spoken to Ricky during that initial canvass.
Mm.
But his mom lied to the police and said on the day of the murder, her son was at her apartment and asleep on the couch.
When he was not.
And Ricky Robles, until 1986, maintained his innocence, hoping he would win parole. He admitted to the parole board that he killed them after years of being denied parole.
Well, now you at that point you definitely ain't gonna get it at that time.
He was he was granted parole in 2020
What? Okay, he sat there and admitted. Okay.
because he now is admitting he did it.
Okay, if somebody admits something to doing something, you don't let them out.
No one is reporting if he is alive or dead or where he's at really.
That doesn't make it any better.
No. So yeah, Ricky Robles is still out there.
Now, how old is he?
This happened. He was like in his 20s or 30s when this happened. In let me scroll up. 1963
When he started killing?
when he killed the two. It was in 1963 he killed the two. Let's say he's in his 20s.
Mm-hmm.
63 to 83. That 83 would make him 40. He'd be in his 80s or 90s.
Oh, he won't do much.
He can't do much. But yeah, that was the Career Girl murders. Sorry about our little tangent.
And it's kind of fun though.
Tangents are kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is 5:02.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.
See you later.
See ya. You're gonna actually probably see us in the same clothes
Probably, but
in
with the
the
light
next
on.
episode with the light on.
With the light on, because it was getting a little bright in here, and I was getting a headache.
Yeah.
So, and the next one's a very short one. So
Yeah.
probably have to keep it short anyways because I have to go pick up John.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun little thing. Remember, Valentine's Day, get your partner something. Specifically, get your partner a giant pink dragon from Walmart.
Right? That's too funny.
um,
What?
but also make sure the mob don't cross them.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't cross the mob.
So, all right, kids.
Bye, guys.
Bye.